Are you looking for peace of mind at your doorstep? Look no further. With the Blink Video Doorbell, your home's entrance is always within your control. Check out the link in the video description to learn more and get your Blink Video Doorbell on Amazon. Your home is in your hands.
At the Ferguson Marine Shipyard, Chief Executive David Tideman is gamely accentuating the few positives to be found when the only two vessels under construction there are 6 years behind schedule and running at triple their original budget. To see Glenn Sannox in the next few weeks starting trials with her own propulsion, that's a huge milestone, he enthuses. She's becoming a ship. She's coming to life. He points out that the ceilings are now installed on the ship's bridge, a measure of just how close she is to completion. You don't do that until all the piping, wiring, and ventilation are in place. As for her sister ship Glen Rosa, she is already on the slipway, due for launch on Clydeside in a few short months. It'll be a very exciting day, says Mr. Tideman. Not that she will be ready for service in CalMac's chronically overstretched ferry fleet by then. Once she is in the water, outfitting her interior begins. The shipyard boss estimates the Glen Rosa is only halfway to completion. The scenes were filmed last December when Mr. Tideman was still the man running Ferguson Marine in Port Glasgow. Although he did not know it when he was showing a BBC Scotland documentary crew around the infamously unready vessels last winter, he had only weeks left in the job. The board of the Scottish government-owned shipyard sacked him in March, a month before Glen Rosa slid into the water for the next phase of her construction. The fascinating behind-the-scenes insight into the yard at the heart of a national scandal comes in the second series of Island Crossings, which examines the crucial role of CalMac ferries in Scottish life. The viewer is taken on board both ferries where the monumental scale of the task still lying ahead remains all too apparent. The windows, at least, are in on the Glen Rosa. When the Glen Sannox first took to the water in 2017, they were crudely painted on. Yet the interior, still surrounded by scaffolding, is not even structurally complete and more closely resembles a building site than a passenger ferry. Work is further advanced on the Glen Sannox, but visitors from the government agency which will take ownership of the vessel still have to be shown where the passenger seating will be and which part of the ship will house the bar and retail area. In December 2023, the fixtures and fittings could only be seen in a 3D computer simulation. The tour was great, really good to see in situ the whole passenger experience, the journey that our customers will go on, says Diane Burke, Commercial Director for Caledonian Maritime Assets Ltd, CMAL, which procures ferries for CalMac. With wires hanging from open ceilings, boarded-up corridor walls, unfinished stairways, and even the main passenger access doors represented by sheets of polythene, clearly much of that experience still required a leap of imagination. Mistakes were made, Mr. Tideman tells the BBC crew, in the construction of this vessel and, in fairness to him, the biggest ones came well before he took over in 2022. He says, there's a lot of media coverage already about the Glen Sannox being launched with painted windows and an empty hull. What that then created for the yard for the following years, we had to carry everything onto the ship, we had to put everything in through small doorways, in through smaller spaces. Pipes had to be shorter because you had to handle them differently and the costs go up and the man-hours go up, and it's a good example of doing things in the wrong sequence. To exacerbate matters, the launch came even before a final design was agreed. The ship entered the water with the wrong bow in place, which further added to the delays. Searching questions have been asked ever since about the fake launch attended by then First Minister Nicola Sturgeon. Was it a politically motivated PR stunt? Why did it go ahead with such enormous amounts of work yet to be done? How many millions extra did it cost the taxpayer? But they were not questions for Mr. Tideman in late 2023. He was focused on ensuring the errors in the Glen Sannox construction were not repeated on the Glen Rosa. WEC an aft mast about to be fitted on the latter vessel while it remains on dry land. It's an example of what we call advanced outfitting, he says pointedly. And not enough of this was done on the Glen Sannox. Elsewhere in episode 3, we drop in on a managerial